Your financial advisor is gonna hate this video. And let's say this is your portfolio right over here. And over here, you have your beautiful home, but you still have your mortgage. Now, every financial advisor is gonna tell you, don't pay off your mortgage. What you need to do is take this, invest it somewhere into the promised land, and let math do its thing. And mathematically, they're not wrong. But what happens when the market drops 20% and your portfolio happens to be like that, but you still have your $3,000 a month mortgage due next month? The bank doesn't care that your portfolio just got wiped out and it's gone. And I've helped over 500 families, and this is what I've learned about retirement. Retirement isn't a math problem. It's a how do I sleep well at night problem. So I'm gonna show you both scenarios. Options A is gonna be somebody with a higher portfolio, but with a mortgage. Options B is gonna be a lesser portfolio without a mortgage. And you let me know which one you would wanna be when you're retired. All right, so if you're planning for retirement, you're in the right place. Make sure you hit subscribe. And if you're not sure if you're ready to buy, check out my free homebuyer readiness roadmap. It takes less than 30 seconds, and it gives you customized videos based on your specific situation. It's completely free. My gift to you in the link down below. So here's the situation. Like I said, we got options A, right? The bigger portfolio with the mortgage. Let's say you're 60 years old, you saved up $2 million. Really nice job, by the way. But you still owe $500,000 on your house. Let's just say your mortgage rate is like 3.5% or something. And your portfolio has averaged around 8 to even 9% over your lifetime. So the math says, don't pay off your house. Your investments are making you way more money than your mortgage is costing you. Keep the mortgage, right? And invest the difference. And then you'll come out ahead. And honestly, on a spreadsheet, that is so true. This person will end up wealthier, full stop. But here's the thing. Remember in science class, like those science equations where they say, hey, try to figure out the force of this and ignore friction, zero friction. But you know in real life, there is friction, right? So the math assumes perfection, right? As long as you ignore everything else that actually happens in real life, your emotions, the market crashing, your kids might need help for something in an emergency, the pit in your stomach when you check your account and it's down 20 or 30%, like those Legos I talked about, and then you still have your mortgage bill due on the counter. The math works perfect in a vacuum. But in my opinion, you don't retire in a vacuum. And this reminds me of a client. So he ended up keeping his mortgage, right? Invested the difference. And we kind of did what options A is, right? In February 2020, everyone who has a lot of money in stocks will remember that day like the back of their hand. It went down like 20% in like a month, which is bananas to even think. And he was basically watching his retirement disappear on his screen while he still has a mortgage. And then I got connected with him because he was trying to refinance, right? And you know, we're not financial advisors, but he was basically like, hey, what do I do? I'm like, oh, talk to your financial advisor. But basically in a, sort of a panic, he sold a lot of his stocks. And, fortunately on my side, I was able to reduce his interest rate and reduce his payment, which was really helpful. And, obviously we kept in touch throughout the years, helped his other family members, things like that. So obviously, thank you so much for the referrals. But, till this day, I remember we always talk about it every time we connect, like once a year, every other year, or something like that. And he's like, man, and every single year he'd be like, Nathan, I shouldn't have sold. But, I was worried about the nest egg. I'm like, yeah, don't get me wrong. I didn't know what was going to happen during COVID either, right? And that's the thing. No spreadsheet is ever going to show you these unexpected things. That's why they call it unexpected, right? It doesn't model what you'll actually do when you're not thinking logically and when all these different variables compound on each other. And that makes life harder, right? It doesn't live in a vacuum like I mentioned earlier. And I've seen this pattern over and over again, like in 2020, right? Because of COVID and the lockdowns, right? From February 2020, and there was like a 20% drop. Similar thing happened in 2022 because of inflation, and that was about a 20% drop over the year. And anytime there's a massive drop in the double digits, people start asking, what if it keeps going down? And here's the thing. When the market drops and you have a mortgage, right? Just like this, right over here, right? Like I mentioned in the beginning, the mortgage doesn't drop too. You still owe $3,000 a month on the first, even if your portfolio went up and down. And that pressure kind of changes how you think about everything, right? It first starts off with, hey, maybe I got to start canceling some of those vacation trips. Then you start eating out a little less. Then you start looking at your computer and look at job listings. It's like, hey, what can I do for part-time? And I've been out of work for quite some time, so I don't know if people are going to hire me. And suddenly you're 68 years old, wondering if retirement was a mistake or not. And again, that's option A, right? You have a $2 million portfolio, lots of money right over here, right? And it went down 20% to like 1.6 million, for example. And you look on paper, and technically it's totally fine. 2 million to 1.6, you still got the $3,000 a month mortgage. Many people will be very happy. But imagine the psychological mind games that would play with you when you watch your account go from like 1 million to 800,000, 7 figures to 6 figures, or even 100,000 to 80,000, 6 figures to 5 figures, and you've still got a mortgage payment due. At least for me, that would change how I would see every single dollar. All right, so let's flip the script now. We have options B, which is the same person, same $2 million. But this time, before they retire, they're gonna pay off the $500,000 house. So that way this mortgage goes bye-bye. So now they have 1.5 million in their portfolio and 0 mortgage. Their only expense are like the normal stuff, right? Like groceries, utilities, insurance. They can have more fun now and more vacations. Now, when the market drops, right, that same 20% that we did in options A, their portfolio goes from 1.5 million to 1.2 million dollars. So same exact hit, but here's what's different. That $3,000 a month mortgage, nobody's knocking on the door for that payment. So here's what I love about this is they don't panic, they just make adjustments, right? If you think about it, 3,000 a month times 12 is 36,000. So you don't have that payment. So instead of maybe doing 7 trips out of the year, you do 5 trips. Not bad. Maybe for a few times out of the week, you cook at home just for a little bit, maybe for a month or so, but you're not really losing sleep, right? They're not Googling part-time jobs for retirees, right? They just ride it out because they can. And what I love about this is they can sleep better at night because when you don't have to pay anything, you don't have to panic. And at the end of the day, let's zoom out. Maybe you've seen a loved one in their final moment, or at least I have. And nobody's ever talking at the end of their life, bragging about their 10.3% returns in their portfolio or about their 2.75% 30-year fixed rate. What they talk about is the day they got married, the first look, and the emotions they feel when they see their partner. They talk about the day they found out they were having a kid. And then they find out what their gender is. And then they're trying to figure out their name, throwing some ideas out there. They talk about that Christmas morning with the family when they got that GameCube that they've been saving up all their chore money for, and they can finally get it. And they're excited out of their minds because that's the stuff that actually matters. So if you're sitting there thinking, okay, this makes sense, I definitely agree with that. Like, I'm not gonna be sitting at my deathbed wishing I had, instead of a 10.3% return, a 10.4% return, right? So this all makes sense, great. But there are some common mistakes that happen if you're wanting to sell stocks to pay off your mortgage. And you guessed it, it has to do with taxes. So this is where the strategy comes in. So this is what I would do. Now, the first question you need to ask yourself is, where is this money coming from? If your money is in a 401k or an IRA, right? You can't just pull it out, the 600 grand or 500 grand, and write a check. Well, I guess you can, but then Uncle Sam will take a big chunk out of that for taxes, right? So that's not really how it works, right? Because like I said, the IRS will treat that as income, like all of it in that year. So now you're paying taxes at a higher bracket, right? So let's just say an easy example, right? Your $500,000 mortgage just became a $625,000 problem, roughly. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less, depending on the state you live. And I've seen it happen before too, by the way, right? That tax bill surprise. So I've had clients do this exact same thing, and they decided to pay off their house. And it's a great decision and feels amazing. You write that check, weight off their shoulders, which is amazing, right? Then 12 months later, the tax season shows up, and then they get hit with the giant bill that they never planned for, because nobody told them that pulling that much money out of retirement actually cost them quite a bit of money. So that's where, like, you want to take the big picture idea, pair it with a strategy, right? So here's the playbook if you wanted to do this, and this is what the smart people do. And these are going to be some writer downers, okay? So again, I'm not giving you financial advice because every situation is completely different. You definitely want to talk with a financial advisor as well. But think of this as two different types of education, right? Discoverable and procedural. This is discoverable. It's like, hey, I'm bringing it up so that way you can figure out who do I need to talk to get procedural education, right? Discoverable is like this stuff exists. Procedural is what are the 16 steps that I need to execute on my specific plan, right? So think of this almost as a checklist. So first thing, I would start with step number 1, which is know your numbers. Before you do anything, you need to know exactly how much you owe for your mortgage, and it's not your principal balance. It's going to be your mortgage payoff. Now, your principal balance will be very close, but all you have to do is call your lender, say, hey, I want to order a mortgage payoff. Sometimes you can order online too. And the payoff is basically the exact amount. Pay off your mortgage and get a paid in full letter. So you want to get that letter, write down the number, right? Then look at where your money is. So how much money is in your 401k? How much is in your Roth? So remember, 401k and IRA is going to be pre-tax money. So when you're, working, you put it in pre-tax, right? And then now when you're retired, you're taking it out taxed. Whereas the Roth is going to be kind of the opposite. You put your after-tax money. So let's say you had a $10,000 paycheck before taxes and you got $5,000 because Uncle Sam took a lot. And then you take that $5,000 and invest that into a Roth. Now, when you pull that money out in the future, when you retire 30, 40 years from now, that you can take out tax-free, right? So that's the difference there. So you want to figure out your 401k, your IRA stuff, your Roth stuff, and then your cash savings. Because where the money comes from pretty much changes how you want to divide and conquer. Step 2 is the important one. Talk to your advisor. And these are the exact questions that I would bring up, right? Again, think of this as discoverable knowledge, right? Bringing this up so you learn about it. So if you have a financial advisor, here's what I want you to ask them. Number 1 is going to be, if I pull my payoff amount out of my 401k this year to pay off my mortgage from the payoff, what does my tax bill look like? Number 2, what if we spread that out, this is the key, over 3 to 5 years instead? What's the difference in taxes? By the way, it's probably going to be less. Number 3, do I have money in a Roth, or let's call it in a brokerage account that we could use first so we're not pulling everything from a tax deferred account, AKA minimizing my tax bill. So this next step is massive. Step 3 is going to be the recast strategy. So here's the secret sauce. This is how recasting works, and this is what I've seen a lot of people do to save tens of thousands of dollars. Instead of paying off their mortgage all at once, fancy stuff. So instead of doing this all at once, they spread it out over, 3 to 5 years and stuff like that. So it slowly disappears, let's call it that, right? So maybe you pull out 100 grand to maybe 150 grand in chunks from year 1 and beyond from your retirement accounts, enough to make a dent, but not so much that you jump into a crazy tax bracket. Each time you make a big payment, by the way, with recasting, call your lender up, say, hey, I'm gonna do a recast, not an extra principal payment, but a recast. And what this does is it recalculates your monthly payment, so that $3,000 a month example, into a new lower balance and lower payment. You still keep the same interest rates and stuff like that, but the payment lowers. So year 1, for example, maybe your payment drops from $3,000 a month to $2,200 a month. Year 2, it goes down to $1,500 a month. And year 3, maybe $800. And year 4 to 5, you write one last check and it's done, right? So you get to the same place, if that makes sense. The mortgage is paid off, the house is yours, but maybe you saved some money on taxes along the way. Now, if your lender doesn't allow recasting, my little pro tip is please work with a lender that does allow this. So you want to be a little proactive about this. So this is where working proactively with a mortgage advisor to predict whether you're doing this or not becomes very important. And by the way, this is exactly what we do with our clients. We map this thing out from the timing, tax brackets, and again, working with your financial advisor and the recast schedule that I just mentioned. So that way, by the time you actually retire, the mortgage is either gone or there's a clear plan to get rid of it. So if you want help building something like this, there's a link down below. You can see if we're a good fit. Now look, so I sit across from families every single week who are trying to figure this out. And the ones that are the happiest, in my opinion, in retirement, at least what I can tell in their voices, it's never the ones with the biggest portfolios. It's the ones like who aren't worried. It's like a small distinction there. They're not checking their account every morning. They're not canceling the trips that they have planned. They're not wondering if maybe they made a mistake. They're just like living. And I think that's the whole point. And by the way, if you like these types of videos, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Maybe what do you want to watch next? If you like this, it tells me also to make videos like this. And by the way, YouTube is recommending this video right over here. So go check it out. I'll see you there, and I'll catch you on the next one.